With over 200,000 units sold every year, the Jeep Grand Cherokee is the brand's most important model because it's the brand's best-selling model. Now, of course, the current generation Grand Cherokee has been around since 2010, and it was well overdue for a complete redesign. Thankfully, Jeep has finally delivered, and for 2022, I'm standing by the all-new 5th generation Grand Cherokee. It's built off of an all-new Alfa Romeo-based Giorgio platform. It has new styling front and rear, it has a new electrified powertrain under the hood, and it has a completely redesigned, far more luxurious interior versus the previous generation. So if you guys have been in the market for a Grand Cherokee, was the long 10-year wait for an all-new 5th generation worth it? Stay tuned to find out. So before we get started on the walk around, I want to clarify one important detail. This right here is the Jeep Grand Cherokee L. It's the first ever 3-row model of the Grand Cherokee, and it's 205 inches long. This is a big SUV. However, today we're in Moab to drive the model that a lot of Jeep enthusiasts have been waiting for, because this is the smaller 2-row regular Grand Cherokee, so the non-L. And just like the L, it is based off of the all-new Giorgio platform. It's an all-new unibody platform. And compared to the L, this is about almost a foot shorter in overall length and about 5 inches shorter in the wheelbase. So this is the right sized vehicle for a lot of people who plan to take this vehicle off-roading, who plan to just use it as a daily driver. And you can kind of compare this vehicle to something like a Range Rover Sport, because the two vehicles are identical in size, or something like a Toyota 4Runner. But let's start, of course, with the front fascia, because just like the L, this has the same front end. You have the classic Jeep styling elements here with the 7-slotted grille. Full LED headlights are going to be standard on every version of the Grand Cherokee, including the base Laredo. This one here is the fully optioned Summit Reserve, so it has basically all the bells and whistles. You also have unique elements like the satin finish in the grille, in the lower front fascia. You have a nicely integrated or designed radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control, the night vision cameras over here, and then you have a new front camera as well with a built-in washer. The headlights also are LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals, and then if you guys go for an altitude trim or up, or limited trim and up, you get LED fog lights, which all the lighting is LED, which makes this car, or gives this SUV a much more premium appearance to it. And I think a lot of people are going to really like that. Now I want to bring you guys over here to the Trailhawk model, because this is the the 2-row model is the only one you can get a Trailhawk model in, or trim level in. The L does not offer this off-road capable version. You can see it has some unique styling elements to it. Instead of all the chrome, Jeep kind of blacks it out. They have a completely different front bumper. You have the signature red tow hooks available, which of course these tow hooks are going to be important if you guys are seriously off-roading. And you can see here, just like the Summit Reserve, you have the same full LED headlights. You have a different design to the LED fog lights. The front overhang of this vehicle is very short. That's a very classic trademark thing of all the Grand Cherokees. And then over here you can see the hood graphic is designed to minimize glare. If you guys are off-roading, or if you're in bright sunlight like we are here in Moab, this will help to reduce the glare coming back. And then I also really like the red Trailhawk badge here that makes this car feel a little bit more special. I really like actually the styling elements of the Trailhawk. Now let's talk a little bit about the size of the side profile, because this vehicle at 193.5 inches long, this is about, like I said earlier, almost a foot shorter. However, compared to the 4th generation Grand Cherokee, this is almost 4 inches longer overall. Its wheelbase is 116.7 inches long. It's about 2 inches longer than the previous generation, but about 5 inches shorter versus the L. You can see the Trailhawk model also has unique wheels and tires. These are obviously going to be necessary if you're going to be planning to take this vehicle off-road. It's an 18-inch wheel wrapped in Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain tires. The Summit Reserve has a 21-inch wheel, so that's more road-going tire. The cool thing about the Trailhawk version is it comes standard with Jeep's Quadralift air suspension. So it gives you the ability to go from 8.4 inches of ground clearance all the way up to a class-leading 11.3. That's a little bit more than what you got in the L. So obviously, if you guys plan to do serious off-roading, the fact that Jeep made the air suspension standard on this version gives it, again, the capability that you demand for a vehicle like this. Now, of course, being the new generation, you can get the 2-tone roof with the black roof. It's an extra charge, like $300 extra. And Jeep also now offers a pano sunroof for like an extra $2,000 extra on certain trims, standard of course on the Summit Reserve, which is what you expect. And then over here, if you follow me over to the rear of the vehicle, you can see the rear has a slightly different look versus the L. It has kind of this almost floating D-pillar design, whereas the L does not have that. And you can see where most of the overall length is taken out of the rear, which gives this car a shorter, stubbier look, which I think goes with the boxier shape. I also like how the rear overhangs are also nice and short. You have full LED taillights. There's this new black bar that kind of connects the two taillight modules together. These are full LED. And then you can see here, this one here being the Trailhawk version has the Trailhawk badge with the red accents, the red tow hooks. And then underneath here, you'll find the tow cover, which Jeep says is a quick release. There's like 2 different pins that release the tow hook cover. Maximum tow capacity varies, which I'll talk about when we go underneath the hood. Now, in terms of the cargo area, Jeep also was able to improve that for this new generation. This only comes with 2 rows of seating, so you can't get the captain's chairs or the 3rd row. Jeep will happily sell you the L for that, but you get a pretty impressive 37.7 cubic feet of space back here, which is a little bit more versus last year. Underneath here, you can see there is a full-size spare tire, although it's not the full all-terrain design. I'll have to double check. These are really early pre-production models. I was surprised that this is not a matching alloy. If you fold down the 2nd row seats, Jeep says that expands it to just under 71 cubic feet of space, which again is about 3 cubic feet more than what you had with the previous generation. So now that we've talked about the exterior of the new Grand Cherokee, let's go ahead and hop into the interior. And we are in the fully loaded Summit Reserve, which has an interior that will actually rival a lot of luxury cars. As you guys heard, the door sounds nice and solid, and you have genuine metal trim, genuine wood trim, and Jeep has a completely new design in here, although it is pretty similar to the Grand Cherokee L, which it itself already had a pretty impressive interior. Now here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see it's got Jeep's newest key fob that includes remote start. The key itself also feels nice in your hands. It has some nice details like the chrome work, and it's also a good size, good heft to it. The button to fire up the engine is right here where you'd expect it to be. And as you guys heard, this one here has the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, which is the base engine. You can also see the air suspension is kind of leveling itself out. I can control that from this little toggle right here. But other than that, this black interior with the Tupelo brown stitching throughout the cabin definitely looks a lot more upscale. This is the upgraded Palermo leather. Only the Summit Reserve gets this high-end leather with the diamond quilting. The seats are nice and comfortable, but they could be softer. I think they're a little bit too firm, but these front seats offer 16 different ways of adjustments, and they're also massaging, heated and cooled, and I have 2-person memory on both front seats. So it's a very rare feature to find, especially in a mainstream segment, and that's exactly why Jeep kind of tries to make this car compete more on with the luxury offerings. Now, looking over here at the steering wheel, you can see this is the same new steering wheel that we found in the Grand Cherokee L. It includes a power tilt and telescoping function, which is nice. It's tied in with the memory feature. It's got a heated steering wheel as well. And this model also has the 10-inch heads-up display, which again, heads-up display typically is harder to find in this segment, but Jeep includes it in here. It's a nice size. You also have this 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster here, which is slightly customizable. You can adjust the way the gauges actually look. And then you can also even put the GPS in there where it'll put the map screen over there. And then you can also access the night vision, the off-road, your audio information. The night vision is definitely interesting. You can see you can make the speedometer look a little bit more traditional there. Letting the night vision start up. This screen here, I think the graphics could be a little bit more interesting looking. They just seem like a little basic to me. Now, there's with the night vision, obviously, we're not gonna be able to see it to its full effect here in the daytime, but there are some features here that you typically wouldn't expect to find in a Jeep product, let alone a vehicle that doesn't wear a luxury badge in it. But really, my only criticism with that screen is I wish the graphics looked a little bit more detailed and a little bit more interesting. They just look a little bit basic to me. Now over here on the center stack, you can see there's the Uconnect 5 infotainment system, which Jeep says is 5 times faster than the old Uconnect 4 system. It includes over-the-air updates. It also includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can see there's the CarPlay itself. It looks good. Bright graphics, really crystal clear, also relatively quick and snappy to use. Although I had a little bit of issues in the Grand Cherokee L when I first tested that. It was a little bit slow and laggy. Not really noticing it as much in this vehicle, so maybe Jeep has updated it over the years. Going back to the home display there, you can see there's the off-road menu pages. There's your home page which you can customize and whatnot. And you can also have all your different sources over here going to vehicle there. It allows you to kind of custom change things. This car also comes with ambient lighting in here where it has 5 different ambient lighting colors. You can go there to the personalization. You can see you can change that out. Jeep actually says this color here mimics the lit up speakers for the 19-speaker Macintosh stereo system. You can see it's got a metal speaker cover. 950 watts, 19 speakers, like I said, sounds incredible. It's right up there with all the top Bang & Olufsen, Bowers & Wilkins systems you'll find in the luxury brands. This display here is 10.1 inches, and then what's new this year is this screen over here. This is the passenger display, which I can't see it from the driver's side, but this is only included on the Summit Reserve. All the other trims, you can't even get this. You can't even get this screen in larger Grand Cherokee L just yet. Jeep says that they can't talk about future product, but it's probably coming for the 2022 model year. But that screen allows you to basically to be able to watch like Amazon Fire TV, which pairs in with the rear seat entertainment system, and you can allow the passenger to even like send GPS directions to me on this side. So while I'm driving, the passenger can have take over some of those roles. It's a nice feature to have, and it really makes this car, the interior, feel a lot more modern. You can see there's also a digital rear view mirror in here, which you can get as an option on all the other trims. If you don't like it, flip this down, it'll go back to a standard mirror, but that's also really great in making it so that you can see out back there, even if you have stuff kind of blocking your view in the back seat. Now, in terms of the interior materials, like I said earlier, this is a walnut wood, which is genuine. It pairs up with some real aluminum trim. Genuine stitching here on the dash, which makes the cabin feel, again, very luxurious. Stitching right here, which is great. The center stack has a lot of piano black plastic, which annoyingly shows a lot of fingerprints and dust, so I don't really like that. You can see there's a nice big area here where there's a wireless phone charging pad, 4 USB charging ports. There's an HDMI hook up there for the front passenger screen. And then over here, I really love this. This is an actual metal rotary knob here for the 8-speed automatic transmission. This right here feels a little bit more plasticky, but I like how Jeep stress the details right here, make this feel a little bit more high quality. When I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see full 360 camera, and the resolution is good. It offers several different views. It also has a front camera there, which we'll talk about that when we're off-roading. That's very useful if you guys plan to take this vehicle off-roading. I imagine the Summit Reserve model probably won't do that. You've got a drive mode selector here, which allows you to cycle between a snow, sand, mud, rock, and then on the other end of the spectrum, there's an auto and a sport mode, and then your adjustable air suspension over here. You can see I put it into sport mode and it lowers it to its lowest setting, which I believe at this setting it has like 8.4 inches of ground clearance. Open this up, you can see cup holders over here, which is nice, although some luxury brands offer heated and cooled cup holders. That's kind of nitpicking there, but it is lit up. It's also nicely finished. A nice padded armrest over here. If you open this up, you can see there's 2 levels of storage. There's the upper storage. Open that up, it actually goes in relatively deep. No USB power outlet in there, but there is a light. There's a lot of other nice ambient lighting in here. Above me, you can see there's a lot of LED lighting. This controls, of course, some of the in-car telematics. You can open and close the power sunroof, which, by the way, this big pano roof comes standard on the Summit Reserve. It's like $2,000 extra if you guys go for the lower trims. Really lets in a lot of light. I also like how there isn't a bar here that blocks it, but there's one here that has the 2 separate glass pieces, but at least it's actually one big piece. There's also a nice power retractable sunshade if you guys don't like the sun beating down on you. Again, you kind of expect these features in this particular segment. Lastly, I want to talk about is the glove compartment. You can see it's got Reese's and an orange in there, and it's damped and lined with felt. And it's a relatively decent sized bin style glove box. So overall, the cabin definitely has all of the tech features that I expect in a vehicle that's, wears a luxury badge, but at the same time, it also feels roomy. It feels relatively familiar, and I like all the upgraded tech that Jeep has included in this new Grand Cherokee. So now let's jump into the back seat of the brand new 2-row Grand Cherokee. Now I want to show you guys a couple of things. First of all, if you guys want captain's chairs, it's not available on the 2-row. Instead, you just get a 3-person bench because remember, no 3rd-row seat is available. However, the bench does offer some nice upgraded features. Like, for example, you can see you can actually recline this all the way back like that, which makes the rear seat area a little bit more comfortable. And it's also covered in the same quilted Palermo leather with the contrast brown stitching in here. It looks really high-end, and you also get a ton of space back here. Now let me get back here and show you guys the actual room. Jeep says you get around 38.5 inches of legroom back here, which is about the same as last year's model. It really translates to a good amount of space back here. You can see the floor is not completely flat, but there's a slight hump over here. The vehicle is wide enough where you could fit 3 people across. Sadly, these seats don't actually slide forward and back, so that's something that they took out, I believe, on the 2-row model. But because this is the fully optioned Summit Reserve, there's a crap ton of luxury touches back here. First of all, there are manual rear seat sunshades, which is a great feature to have to block out the light. Materials quality back here, high quality everywhere. You have beautiful soft touch leather on the door panels, all along the door panels, the same high quality window switches. All 4 of the windows are one touch, which is nice. You have a metal accented door handle, real walnut wood trim, the same lit up Macintosh speakers back here, and you even have rear seat air vents on the pillar over here, and you have rear seat air vents right here in the center with, as you can see, quad zone automatic climate control, which is nice to have, and you also have heated and ventilated seats back here. So again, wonderful features that I was not expecting to find in this segment, along with 4 more USB ports, an actual power outlet back here. which is great. The one thing this car is missing is the DVD, or is the rear seat entertainment system with the 10-inch monitors, which again throws in a little bit more features, and it would include an HDMI port. But you can see here there's 2 storage pockets. There's an armrest here that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. And honestly, there's just plenty of room. So if you guys don't need the 3rd row of the L version, you're gonna find plenty to like with the 2 row. And I seriously think that this has more than enough space for many families out there. So if you guys plan to do some serious off-roading, these are not the wheels and tires you're going to want to go with, but because I haven't shown you guys the Summit Reserve wheels, you can see these are a unique 21-inch wheel wrapped in 275/45 width tires. These are a much better looking design versus the chrome wheels that Jeep puts on the Summit Reserve L model, and I think that it really gives the Grand Cherokee, the 2-row model, a really nice stance. Now, of course, let's move on to the powertrain, because Jeep is going to launch this vehicle with 2 powertrains, and they're pretty familiar. The base engine is this. It's the company's corporate 3.6-liter naturally aspirated Pentastar V6. It makes 293 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. That's actually 2 horsepower less versus the 2021 model. It comes standard with an 8-speed automatic. Either rear or 3 different 4-wheel drive systems are available. This is the Summit Reserve, so it has the Quadra Track 2 4-wheel drive system. The Trailhawk will have the Quadra Drive 2 system, which also includes an electronic limited slip rear differential. And you can also get a class exclusive front sway bar disconnect, which will allow even more wheel articulation. This one here is obviously the more road-going version. It's rated to get 19 in the city, 26 on the highway, and towing capacity, the max towing capacity on the V6 is around 6,200 pounds. As this one sits, though, it weighs in at around 5,100 pounds. Although Jeep says that for this new generation, they did reduce the weight by about 250 pounds compared to the previous generation. So they did manage to make this car bigger, but they also made it a little bit lighter, which is a very good thing. Now, if you guys want more power, there's also a 5.7-liter V8. It's the company's Hemi V8 that makes 357 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. I don't have a V8 here to show you right now. I'm going to see if I can drive one later on during the test drive. However, right there on the rock is a unique model to the 2-row Grand Cherokee. This is the new 4xe powertrain, which Jeep says won't be ready until early next year. That's when I'll be driving it, and it'll go on sale sometime early next year. It pairs the Wrangler 4xe's powertrain, which means it has a 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder with an electric motor and a 17.3 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Total system output is 375 horsepower, so it's the most powerful Grand Cherokee model for now, and 470 pound-feet of torque. That's more power versus the 5.7 V8. Jeep says it'll go about 25 miles on a full battery charge, which is definitely a little bit more than the Wrangler 4xe, and it should qualify for the full $7,500 federal tax credit. Now, we don't know pricing just yet. Jeep did mention it gets 57 mpge, but we don't know the fuel economy of just the 4-cylinder alone, and we also don't know the curb weight. I suspect that model is going to be the heaviest one when it goes on sale early next year. All right, so we're starting the driving scene in the brand new Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve with the base engine, the company's 3.6-liter Pentastar V6. And I also want to point out that we are at around 4,500 elevation here. So this is going to obviously tax the V6 even more. And the Summit Reserve model is one of the heaviest. This weighs over 5,000 pounds. So she definitely doesn't feel that quick. Very similar to the last Grand Cherokee L that I drove. It just feels a little sluggish. For an extra $3,200, Jeep will happily sell you the V8. Or if you guys want to wait until early next year, Jeep will offer the 4xe, the plug-in hybrid model, which will be the most powerful version of the Grand Cherokee. But since we're in the base V6, this is probably the motor that most of you are going to end up buying because it's just a good deal. And with 293 horsepower, it should have sufficient power. I'd say 0-60 right now, because we're in elevation, it's probably around the 8.5-second range. So that's another reason why it feels a little bit sluggish. Now, this vehicle being built on an all-new Alfa Romeo Giorgio platform, just like the L, it has really great on-road dynamics. The steering in the car is light, but also relatively precise, a little bit numb. The structure itself just feels very solid. It goes down the road with a solidity that you expect in a far more expensive luxury branded vehicle, which is why I'm going to be comparing this car to something like a Range Rover Sport throughout the video. If you try to compare this to a Toyota 4Runner, the 4Runner just feels so old and dated and just clumsy to drive versus this. This feels very, very luxurious. The 8-speed automatic is built by ZF, and it does a good job of downshifting quickly when I put my foot down, and it needs to because it has only 260 pound-feet of torque, so it definitely feels gutless at times. But the ride quality is also really good. The air suspension, the Quadralift air suspension is standard. It also has a partial adaptive damper, so it kind of glides over the roads really well, and this is going to help us nicely when we're off-roading, which we'll cue over to the off-road scene later on in the video. But I have very little complaints with the driving dynamics. I'm sitting here getting a massage. It's also really quiet in here, and I really like what Jeep has done with making the Grand Cherokee feel even closer to a luxury vehicle. I mean, the old one was already getting very close to luxury, and this one steps it even further. I mean, even my editor here is sitting there in the passenger seat. He turned on his massaging seat. Yeah, he forgot he had one. And he's also got that new 10.25-inch passenger screen there, which he could watch movies and TV from the Amazon Fire TV. And for safety, I cannot see that when I'm sitting over here. If I try to glance over it, it's got like a privacy screen. So that's, again, a class exclusive feature that nobody else offers. And keep in mind, this model that we're driving is around $67,000. It's missing the V8. It is a lot of money, but consider the fact that a Range Rover starts at around 70 grand for the base version. So this is actually not a bad deal when you look at it that way. And the baser models of this truck started around $37,000, $38,000, but you're really going to be spending around $40,000 to get the all-wheel drive, or the four-wheel drive, which most people are going to want on their Grand Cherokee. But even on these curvier roads here, it handles it nicely. I mean, I've got it right now in its sport setting. It's going to stiffen up the dampers, lower the suspension. The steering gets a little bit firmer. And surprisingly, it can hold its own. Remember, this is a car-based unibody platform with an all-independent suspension. So Grand Cherokees haven't been body on frame with live axles for years. And it just feels like very much in a class of its own with this type of vehicle. I mean, it's hard for me to classify a competitor because you really need to look at the luxury brands, which this can deliver on that. But you can also compare it to the mainstream brands on the lower end, as long as you're okay with giving up the features. I mean, I love the massaging seats. I love the heads-up display. I love the Palermo leather in here, although it could be a little bit softer. The seats are comfortable, but for an upgraded high-quality leather, I wanted the seats to be a little bit cushier in feel. But that's just a personal preference, so my recommendation, try the seats out. Make sure you guys like them. And in terms of fuel economy, right now the trip computer is saying we're averaging just under 14 mpg. Keep in mind, this is a very early pre-production model. The car has 938 miles on it. I'll have to retest the fuel economy at a later date. The EPA says you can do 1926 with this, which this is a little bit better than the 3-row because it's a tad smaller, lighter, and more aerodynamic. But I'll be really curious to drive the V8. I'm not entirely sure I can get behind the wheel of the V8 here. Jeep says most people end up buying the V6, and then early next year, we'll be out to drive the 4xe, which is the model that I'm most excited to drive out on the road. All right, so now we have switched over to the Grand Cherokee Trailhawk, and this is a unique model for the 2-row Grand Cherokee only. And unlike the L, which had decent off-road capability, this is the one that's trail rated, and it has a few class exclusive features like the adjustable air suspension, the front sway bar disconnect, and up to 11.3 inches of ground clearance, which right now Jeep is taking us on this very technical trail here in Moab. And we've got the sway bar disconnected, we've got it in 4-low, we've got this air suspension jacked up to the air till the air bladders are about to explode. But we're gonna see what the capability is like in this new Grand Cherokee. Now I imagine most owners probably won't do the stuff that you're about to see, but it's very nice that you know that this vehicle has been engineered to be able to tackle this stuff if you want to. Now, the one thing that's a challenge when I'm showing you guys off-road footage is actually making it look challenging. I know there's going to be somebody in the comments that says, hey man, my Honda Civic can do the same thing going up this little rock trail, but we're going up a 16% incline right now. You can see there is a fair amount of rocks on the ground, and it's a relatively narrow passage through here. But in 4-low and with the sway bar disconnected, it gives you additional articulation from the front suspension. This car just kind of climbs up it with no problems. And with the Trailhawk model, you get these 18-inch wheels with Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain tires. But feel that, the air suspension really soaks up the bumps. So in a Wrangler, you'd be really like waddling around because it's so bouncy, but in this, it actually has a really smooth ride. This is where, the Range Rover comes to mind when I drive this vehicle, because it very much is a budget American Range Rover. Although this Trailhawk model, the interior is not quite as nice as the Summit Reserve. But I also wanted to point out, it does have the passenger screen in this model. It is an option for about $1,100, which is nice. I'm not entirely sure which trims offer it, but in the Trailhawk model, to find it here, it is a nice surprise. Now, as you can see, we're going to be climbing this vehicle up this very narrow area, going up the mountain even further. I've still got everything in 4 low, just very light throttle application. And the front forward camera here definitely is nice because it gives me a view of what I can't see, which is in front of the vehicle, because we've on a 15% incline right now. But yeah, very light throttle application. The Grand Cherokee Trailhawk literally just climbs up it. It makes it seem so easy. And I'm pretty impressed. I wouldn't want to do this in the L because it's significantly longer, a foot longer, but this is a really nice sized vehicle to get through the rough stuff like this. And because we've got those all-terrain tires with 18-inch wheels, you don't have to worry about popping a wheel like you would on the Summit Reserve with its 21-inch wheels. All right, so we've made some progress going up this mountain that's essentially right next to civilization, but as we get up to the top of this mountain, Jeep says there's even more technical courses. Now, I will say that it's gotten harder and harder as we've gone higher up the mountain, and this is a road or an off-road course that I wouldn't feel comfortable taking things like a Subaru Outback or a Honda Passport through. So it's really showing off the capability, and the cool thing is we haven't had to use the 11.3 inches of ground clearance yet. There have been no scrapes so far, but as you can see, some of the rocks and the ruts are pretty significant. But this Trailhawk just glides right over it, and it has a surprisingly good ride quality while doing it too. So I ended up switching with Rob. He's over there in the silver Grand Cherokee Trailhawk, and he's gonna get through this rocky area right here, and we're gonna see how he does. I'm scared for him.
Super slow, get ready to just stop, okay? Come past her a little bit. There you go.
This is pretty nerve-wracking for me.
It'll catch you, it'll start lifting. There we go. Real slow. Come passenger. Okay, a little bit more. Keep coming, and stop right there.
And there you can see all of the 11.3 inches of ground clearance in the skid plates. Try this in your mommy crossover.
Ready to come down? All right, I want you to go hard driver. All right, start coming forward. This front's gonna drop. Oh yeah, it is. All right, perfect. Nice throttle control. All right, straight wheels.
Ooh.
Okay, straight at me. Let's go passenger. Passenger, just a little. There we go.
There you go. I'm good. I got
All right,
this.
front's gonna start dropping in. Okay. All right, let's go hard passenger. Nice speed. All right, rear's gonna start dropping. Right now.
Ooh.
Keep coming, passenger like that.
And you can see this is exactly why the Grand Cherokee 2-row needs to be smaller, because I'd like to see the L do something like this. It's probably too big. Not even a single scrape. That 11.3 inches of ground clearance is definitely best in class for a reason.
Push
Yeah, I did.
That is perfect. Perfect.
Not even a single scrape. That is very impressive. Tommy, did you think this was a challenging off-road trail?
I mean, it was pretty cool. Usually when these manufacturers set up like an off-road course, it's like, have a speed bump, you know? Here they actually set up some rocks.
Yeah.
The rocks were here and they did.
This is definitely not a place that a lot of Jeep owners would take their Grand Cherokees to.
Not with that attitude,
No.
Sophia.
Savage Alex, hashtag Savage Alex. Ooh. Oh my.
So you guys did drivers here?
Huh?
Go back.
So Jeep couldn't have picked a better location to launch the all-new 5th generation Grand Cherokee. After spending the day driving this vehicle out on the road and on an off-road course, I'm pretty impressed with the overall package that Jeep offers here on this new vehicle. As you guys saw, just like the L, there's plenty to like here, and it's packaged in a smaller size that's a lot more manageable for people, especially if you don't need the third row, you don't need the additional cargo space. And the cool thing about Jeep is they offer this vehicle in a wide spectrum of choices, from the base Laredo, which is a genuine competitor, something like the Toyota 4Runner or a Subaru Outback or a Honda Passport, to this fully optioned Summit Reserve, which can challenge the best from Land Rover. And that's where Jeep occupies a nice middle ground, a nice niche space, because you can genuinely compare this car to luxury brands and mainstream models because Jeep offers a very versatile chassis. Now, just like the L, because it's built off of that Giorgio platform, it's built, of course, for electrification, which sadly we didn't drive the 4xe model here. The V6 has adequate power for most people, but I imagine for the extra $3,000, you might want to upgrade to the V8. I'll be driving the V8 and the 4xe at a later date. And really what I like about the Grand Cherokee is the fact that you can take this vehicle on the road. It's very comfortable, it's really luxurious and easy to drive. And then you can also get the Trailhawk model and take this thing out in Moab, Utah, and tackle a lot of off-road terrain that most owners probably wouldn't do, but you could probably follow a lot of Wranglers into some of those areas if you guys go for the Trailhawk model. And that's the beauty about the Grand Cherokee. It's why this vehicle is the best-selling Jeep in North America. Now, of course, if you guys are looking to purchase this model, they are heading to dealers right now as we speak, and they start at $37,785. So again, it's a couple thousand more than the previous generation, but it's around $1,200 less versus the Grand Cherokee L. Keep in mind, that is a 2021 model. Jeep has not announced pricing for the 2022. If you guys move out of the trim line, you're going to spend roughly about 40 grand if you guys want four-wheel drive. It's about 2 grand extra for four-wheel drive. The Limited is going to be right around $45,000. The Trailhawk, the off-road model that I showed you, is around 51 grand. It comes standard with the air suspension and the upgraded four-wheel drive system. This Summit Reserve is going to be really expensive, however, and it's about 10 grand more than something like a Toyota 4Runner. These start at around $59,900 for the base Summit Reserve. It comes with a lot of equipment, however. This particular one here has a couple of options in it, like the rear sunshades, the upgraded infotainment system that this one has, the tech package. This one here stickers for around $67,000. 67 grand is a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But if you're going to compare this model here, which you could, to something like a Range Rover Sport, those started around 70 grand, and most people are paying around $90,000 to $100,000. Now, I know Jeep doesn't have the brand cachet of a Land Rover, but I would actually argue that the Grand Cherokee has the luxury and tech that can keep up with the Land Rover, and it's probably going to be wrapped in a package that's going to be, I'm going to say, more likely, more reliable versus that Land Rover. So again, this is something to keep in mind if you guys are looking for an all-around mid-size luxury-like SUV, or if you want something that's more mainstream because they offer so many different flavors. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee, including all the trim levels. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel. And in case you guys also noticed, I'm wearing some new Redline apparel here. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel, we do have a bunch of new merch. You can find the area to go to the new merch on the merch shelf, which is located right in this video. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.